6-month update on Starlink, but before that I got some channel news. I'm headed on the road with Dishy, so I want you to come along. And lastly, I'm going to be producing a weekly segment called Starlink News, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe. With that, let's go. What's up YouTube, this is Hill Fam. I'm back with a quick 6-month update on Starlink. Before we get into that, I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you watching. There's been so many words of encouragement and I'm so happy to be sharing my beta experience with each and every one of you. I hope we all get it. It's been a wonderful thing and I can't wait to get to the review so I can talk to you about how much I've really have come to like this system over the past 6 months. But before we go into that, I have 2 more updates. First and foremost, I'm hitting the road. That's right, around here it starts to melt. It gets real ugly. We call it mud season. The rivers are really high. They can't be fished and I can't ski. So for my own health, I gotta get out of Dodge and we're going down south, but I cannot wait to bring Dishy with me. I am so happy that I'm gonna be able to report back to you. So I hope you'll follow along on my travels with my Starlink internet system, and I'm putting it on my trailer and we'll see where it works and where it doesn't work along the way. Along with that, I'm gonna start doing weekly segments on Starlink news. So you don't have to worry about researching on your own. I'll compile all the data and report back to you. At the very end of this update, I'll give you a preview of what I'm looking to do. You guys let me know whether you like it or not. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience over the 6 months, and I'm going to answer some of the questions that I saw in the comments that seem to be pretty popular questions that I want to clear up in case anyone else is wondering about these, and I encourage you guys to ask more questions. I love helping and love sharing my experience with you. So with that, let's get down to the lab and talk about the 6-month overview of Starlink. Let's go! So Starlink, 6 months later, what do I think? Well, I've got nothing short of praises. If you haven't seen my other review, check it out. The only thing that has really changed is that it's gotten better and faster. So number 1 update, I kept seeing things in the forums that folks were getting high speed 220 and up. Now I hadn't seen that until recently. 2 weeks ago, I finally crested over one of my milestones, which was 180. And I was really hitting 180 down quite consistently. Now I did notice the upload stayed about the same. I'm still around that 25-30 mark. Now latency again is kind of bounce around, but it consistently stays under 100 very easily. Most of the time it's around 40-50. So for gaming and everything else, I find it to be, well, pleasurable. However, there is still the intermittent drops. Now you have those intermittent drops here and there, but they are getting fewer and farther in between, in my opinion. So what does that mean? The 6-month review is really quite easy. It means it's getting better, it's getting faster, and I really am enjoying it. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. First, let's talk about working with Starlink over the past 6 months. Now, when I first started working with it, I do a lot of virtual communications, so I'm constantly on with my employees, meeting online. Now, when I first set up Starlink and started using BC on it, I would have constant drops, my voice would be gargled, and my employees really couldn't hear me that well. That continued for the first couple months, and it gradually got better and better. I'm happy to report that I might have a few drops a week, but something that's really small. My employees report back that it maybe stutters a little bit, but it's never incomprehensible and it never lasts for long. So if you're looking to use this again for work, I think it's getting better and better. I don't think that you'll have an issue even if you work via like me online, or it's really, really important that you stay in touch via virtual communications, whether that be Zoom or I hope Google Meet. Shameless plug, I like Google Meet. All right, now what is it like to play on it? So I game, I'm not a serious gamer, I'm a casual gamer. So I was playing Call of Duty on it, and again, in the beginning when I first set it up, I noticed a lot of drops. Every once in a while, I would either DC, and for those of you who don't game, that means disconnect completely from the server. Now, as time went on, it was less DC. There was more stagnant or freezes or little wobbles in the matrix. However, that again has decreased. So something's going on. They're launching more satellites. Remember folks, 60 satellites every 2 weeks. If you looked at what Elon Musk is saying, that in a few short months, they're going to have the entire globe covered. So we will talk a little bit more about that in my last segment on the news. Okay, so overall, I want to get to a couple of your questions. So one, can I use my own router? Can I use my own switch? Yes, you can. Now, I've used both. They worked fine. The great thing that the Starlink team did was they included a WAN port that you can run out to a switch. So what I've done is I've hardwired into the WAN port. It goes out to a switch, and then I can spread it via Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7, whatever you're using, to my other computers if you want to have a hard link in, instead of relying on the baked-in Wi-Fi as well. So know that it has 2 ports. That was a big thing that came up. Secondly is VPN. Can I use a VPN? I've had no problems with a VPN. I've connected, I haven't noticed any degradation or any drops or anything more than normal. So a VPN should be no problem for you whatsoever. The other questions revolved around the mount. Now, the mount, I don't have specifics on those measurements. Some people wanted to know how long that pole was, and rightfully so. Here in northern climates, we get a lot of snow, so you want it to be up and over that in order to, well, you know, not get ruined. So I don't know that exact measurement now, but I'm getting ready to go up on the roof to check everything out, and I'll report back once I do that in the next coming weeks. Now, some people said, why didn't you just put it in your yard? Well, I have 2 puppies. So the puppies are, let's say, Australian Shepherds. Do you know Australian Shepherds? Well, they're pretty wild. So they like to play with things. They would have chewed through that cord, and I've heard horror stories about people having their cords chewed through. So for me, it's up on the roof, but I'm going up there to take it out. I'll do a review of that, check to see how things held up over the winter, and then come back down and share some of those measurements with you. Other than that, it's great. It continues to improve. I am ecstatic at what the possibilities are. All right, old news, but good news. SpaceX satellite Starlink broadband speeds will double this year. Now, we've already seen them close to double. So when I first started, it was 100 megabytes, maybe 110. Now I'm getting 180. Some people are getting close to 300 already, and it's been only 6 months. So he's committed to us that he's gonna do this, and he's almost beat it in my opinion already, but we need to get some more coverage. But he's launching 60 satellites every 2 weeks. So before you know it, it's gonna be really, really good and really fast. So I just really wanted to point out that I like that Elon Musk is really sticking to what he says. If he says he's gonna double it, I really do believe he's gonna double it. And that's the thing about Starlink, is the first time we've seen an internet service provider actually tell us something and it become reality. Such a good thing. So the next thing I want to touch on is something that he just tweeted most recently. And what he said is he's going to make Starlink, or he's going to lift geo restrictions on Starlink. So that means people like me who really wanted to take this on the road are going to be able to do that. We won't have to be locked down to our geolocation. Now, I know some people online have tested it. I'm obviously getting ready to go on the road now to test it, and we'll see how it works out. But it's good to see, again, him listening to us and the needs that we want to take it mobile. Now, he's even taken it one step further. Elon Musk tweeted that he's going to actually create some specific product sets for people who are mobile. So not only just RVers, but he wants to make a smaller dish that you can put on cars, you can put on RVs, you can put on ships, you can put on planes. He's looking to dominate the world, and I can't wait for smaller hardware. How great would that be? He's committed to the fact that he knows that there are people like me out there that want to take it mobile. Furthermore, he speaks a bit more about actually once the satellite constellation is mature, we're going to have multiple cones of influence, which means we're going to have multiple ways to get to different satellites, them overlapping each other with at least 2 at any given time, covering the entire Earth, which means overseas. He's going to do that more by ships, but you know, if you're interested in that, I'm putting together another video, so make sure you hit that alarm button and you can be alerted when I put together that how does Starlink work video. But for right now, know that there's going to be overlapping coverage, and that means that we can move from zone to zone, and that means that theoretically, while we're driving, while we're sailing, while we're flying, we will have access to Starlink, and that he's committed to make the hardware to make that work for us to be a little bit smaller and a little bit more movement friendly. I want to talk a little bit about how the speeds are accomplished. One of the biggest breakthroughs, and again this is from January, was the fact that V2 versions and V3 versions of the satellite themselves have onboard lasers that they can communicate from each other. Now the V1s were taking radio waves from ground stations and they'd have to ping each individual satellite to give them data sets. They no longer have to do that. What's happening is they're going from ground station up, which as we know, radio waves aren't the fastest and lasers are faster than light. So what they're doing is they're pinging the satellite via radio wave, but then they're using the satellites themselves to communicate within the constellation. And as you know, that becomes exponential. So the ability to get those data sets out faster is done through lasers, which is amazing. Again, what do you expect? These folks, they're rock stars. So now we see the increase in mobile communication, we see the increase in laser communication. Now what does that mean for speeds? Theoretically, get this guys, 100 gigabytes per second is what they're saying in theory. Now that's faster than fiber optics. So I can't be more excited about this and all the news that comes out, and I hope you will track along. I want to do weekly sessions about this stuff, and don't forget I'm putting together that comprehensive kind of guide to Starlink and how it all works. But know that this technology, man, I'm excited about it, and I'll keep on sharing it with my audience, and I hope you'll follow along. Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Hill Phantom. Remember, let's go.